3 teens were arrested today for defacing the Kensington Park War Memorial overnight. The destruction includes painted messages against the military and the war in the Middle East. The 3 teens were picked up in the early morning hours after evidence was left at the scene.
Grandpa, something wrong?
Some people sure have short memories, and those who are too young to know need to be taught. Come on, I want to show you guys something.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
At dawn on the morning of the 6th of June, 1944, 225 Rangers jumped off the British landing craft and ran to the bottom of these cliffs. 225 came here. After 2 days of fighting, only 90 could still bear arms. These are the boys of Puente Hope. These are the men who took the cliffs. These are the champions who helped free a continent. These are the heroes who helped end a war. You are men who in your, quote, lives fought for life and left the vivid air signed with your honor.
In the name of God and country, I learned to defy gravity.
To honor my family,
I lived in the belly of a beast.
I fixed the hearts of iron monsters.
I became a worm in the mud for dignity,
for honor,
for righteousness' sake,
for God and country.
I fought for you.
I fought for you.
for you.
I fought for you.
I fought for you.
I fought for you.
I fought for you.
For you.
For you.
For you.
For you.
I fought for you.
I fought for you.
I fought for you, and I'd do it again.
Good afternoon. Today, there is, and perhaps there always will be, conflict in the world. But the United States, fortunately, enjoys peace and freedom. Like other things of great value, the security did not come cheaply. Part of the cost has already been paid by Americans who answered the call to military duty when their country needed them. They served in 12 wars from the Revolution to the current wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, earning the special distinction, veteran. But another part of freedom's cost must continue to be paid long after the guns have been silenced. This debt is owed America's veterans. Some needed their country's help, even as their country once needed theirs. To readjust, to recover from wounds, or to overcome hardships of age and infirmity. Most need and ask nothing in repayment for their sacrifices. Let us continue to help those veterans in need with the greatest possible compassion and efficiency. To the rest, since they ask no special help, we can best pay tribute this day by recognizing what they have achieved and joining them in their resolve to keep America strong and free. At this time, please stand for the posting of the colors and remain standing for the singing of the national anthem and the invocation.
So proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the Rockies regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Order, arms! Center, base! Forward, march!
Please, bow your heads. Lord God, today we assemble here to honor the worthy men and women who gave their best when they were called to serve and protect our nation. Lord, I pray that all of these individuals are blessed for their selfless service, dedication to protecting our nation and freedom, and the many sacrifices they have made to provide us with peace and tranquility. Lord, I ask that through this program we will be able to appropriately show our gratitude and respect to our veterans that our veterans rightfully deserve. In your holy name I pray. Amen. You may now be seated, and I will be followed by Sergeant First Class Smith.
Greetings, fellow veterans. It's an honor to be chosen to reflect upon service. In my years here on this earth, I've learned that service, simply stated, is love for your fellow man. And we all know love is an action word. So as I reflect, I go back to the year 1982, the year that I began the journey of service. As a teenager, I didn't know what I was getting into when I joined the Army. Although I had 5 brothers who had already been in. But you know, as a veteran, as a soldier, as a person, you want to get that first-hand experience. Some of you veterans know what I'm talking about. I remember it was just like it was yesterday. I'll never forget those men who brought me off of that bus, or they call it the cattle car, and seemingly from the time I got there to the next day, I was already a man. So they changed me overnight. It's not like they were magicians or anything. It was, they had a way about helping you find your motivation. And I'll never forget those men. As I moved up through the enlisted ranks, from a private to a non-commissioned officer, through my 21 years in the service, there were many people, places, challenges, and things that helped develop me into the person I am today. Now, as a soldier, learning was often on a sharp curve. Either you got it and moved on, or you didn't, and you stayed at that particular level until you moved to the next location. Many of my friends and some former enemies are still here today, and we talk regularly. Of course, my enemies are now my friends because we learned to put our differences aside. As a warrior, you learn to carry your load, and quite often your buddy's load too. I'm not saying I didn't ever need any help, but it was a satisfying and overcoming way to move forward when you got your buddy's help. Once you help someone and help them through their struggles of life, they often become your best friend. And so it is today. You know, I got people all over the world even, that I call and talk to regularly. Enough of the good old days. It wasn't always good. There were some horrible times as well, horrible days. You know, things like deployments, leaving your loved ones behind, and unfortunately seeing someone pay the ultimate sacrifice. Always in those stormy days, you had to believe that there was some sunlight or some sun shining in your life. And you just had to believe, because sometimes that's all it was to get you through to the next day. But if you believe, you will make it. You can look at me, I'm still here. Even as I speak, many of those guys are still my closest friends and buddies. You know, we helped raise each other's families. We took them, you know, from birth all the way through college. But, you know, we all had to move on, and there were different chapters in our lives. And one of them I'm proud of is for me to be standing right here today in front of you, continuing my journey. As a servant veteran, instructor, who would not trade anything for the opportunity that I've had to stand here and be a mentor to young people. I've been blessed by having the opportunity to keep wearing this uniform 14 years now. Many of my fellow soldiers, they take it off, fellow buddies, they take it off and it's hanging up and it's dusty now. But me, I've been blessed. Yes, Taylor County, I've seen several of you young people go on to do great things. And oftentimes, they give me accolades for helping them reach their goals. I had nothing to do with it. I just had a way of helping them find their motivation. So, as my time dwindled down, and I pray that you all take one thing from me, and that is always help your neighbor, be a servant.
I'll be reading a poem called Heroes Die For Me by Jamie Burns. I'm the flag. I look down upon this land we call America. I have been here since the great nation was formed. I have seen each battle fought. I have seen heroes die for me, for my country. Thank you, all those of you who have kept me flying in the breeze, keeping me in this country united as one. Thank you, all those of you who have sacrificed your lives, giving up all so that I may still fly. Watching over these citizens of this nation, thank you, all those of you who have ever fought. I am grateful to you. You risked everything, faced death each day, faced fear, faced many terrible things. And because of you, my thank yous ring out. Filling the sky, echoing from the hills, they traveled to the graveyards. And thank you to all of you still living. You are a special type of person. To anyone who has ever served this country, and to those serving today, thank you. As I watch life from atop my flagpole, as I think of all you've done, my feelings become too powerful to bear, and all I can say is thank you. I'll be followed by Cadet Ogletree.
Good afternoon. Today I would like to share a short story written by one of our many heroes. So as the story goes, I quote, "The term veteran means a person who served in the active military, naval, or air service and who was discharged or released therefrom under conditions other than dishonorable. Feel free to look further into the phrase active military, but for most circumstances, if a person was disabled or died on active duty, regardless of time served, that person is a veteran. The other requirement is to have been released or discharged under conditions other than dishonorable. Just as Memorial Day is to recognize those who paid the ultimate sacrifice to our country, Veterans Day is about reflection and a time to show appreciation or merely say thank you to those who have gone before us. I was reminded of how veterans blend into our society this weekend. On my flight to San Antonio, I met an Air Force veteran. He now works as a pilot for one of the big airlines. His perspective was great. He said most airline captains he has met were always miserable. He has fun trying to make them smile. They get paid to do what they love, and they aren't happy. He also added, and that's with no one shooting at you. He misses the Air Force and his time spent working for something more than a paycheck. It was great to share a few minutes of veteran chat, like old friends. Later that night, I was gleaming with pride and admiration as I stood across the street from the USO in downtown San Antonio. It was packed. A Saturday night with many young brothers and sisters playing pool and hanging out. I noticed that it's located downtown, right next to a police department, so I knew it was a safe zone for our young troops and sailors. I felt proud of America providing that place for our young troops. I was so pathetic. I wanted to hang with them so badly. I even moseyed over to the door and read the sign stating that it was for active military and retirees if they had room. Being retired, I was aware of that, but since I'm not in need, I didn't want to take away from our troops who replaced me. Of course, I also know nothing is worse than an old first sergeant hanging around, except maybe your mother on a date with you. Feeling like a kid looking into a puppy store, I continued my stroll of beautiful San Antonio. I soon realized that it was the United States Marine Corps' 236th birthday celebration in town. I must say, between the active duty Marines and their dates, it was a good night for people watching. Then, as I started to head back to my hotel room, I noticed another veteran. Sitting alone at a bus stop in a motorized wheelchair was a man wearing a woodland-era camouflage shirt. I estimated he served from 1985 to 1995. Funny how veterans can tell. As I walked by, we made eye contact, and we nodded at each other, and knew that we were brothers. He was trying to get to the bus, so all I saw were his staff sergeant stripes and airborne wings. Many veterans rarely talk to strangers, but we seem to be able to spot fellow veterans. I hope the nods let him know that his service is appreciated. But it made me think, here is a veteran taking the bus alone. Does he feel appreciated? And then I realized it is that veteran and others like him, those that sit alone and blend into our society quietly, that Veterans Day is truly for. I am able to still serve at VA. As a veteran, I am almost like royalty at work. I know from personal experience that the secretary is a veteran. 30% of VA employees are veterans, and that 99% of VA admires and takes care of veterans. But that veteran at the bus stop, the veteran at the airline, they may not share those feelings of royalty. So this week, this Veterans Day, I ask everyone to identify your veteran and make them feel like royalty. Get out and find your veteran. They are at the nursing homes, the VFW, churches, stores, next door, and in your own neighborhood. They are your mother, father, brother, sister, the quiet lady on her porch, the loud man at the ball game, your coworker. I keep hearing stories about Korea veterans that have never been thanked for their service. Let's use this day to change that. They want to be thanked. It will make them awkward and maybe melt, but thank them anyway. They need it and deserve it. Most veterans do not know how to accept a thank you, so teach them. They have given so much. Thank them for their service. They have some great stories and wisdom to share. We may all learn something about history and about ourselves. And from me to all my fellow veterans of all eras, thank you, end quote. I will be followed by TAP's history performed by the Cadet Squad.
The origin of the word taps is thought to have come from the Dutch word for tattoo, tap-toe. More than likely, taps comes from the 3 drum taps that are played as a signal for extinguished lights when a bugle is not used. As with many other customs, the 24 notes that comprise this psalm tradition began long ago and continue to this day.
Of all the military bugle calls, none is so easily recognized and more apt to evoke emotion than the call taps. The melody is both eloquent and haunting, and the history of its origin is interesting and somewhat clouded in controversy. And the British Army, a similar type call known as last post, had been signed over social breaks since 1885. But the use of taps is unique by the United States military, since the call is sounded at funerals, wreath layings, and memorial services.
Up until the Civil War, the infantry call for extinguished lights was printed in Silas Casey's 1801 to 1882 Infantry Tactics and other manuals, the music which had been borrowed from the French. The music for taps was adapted by Union General Daniel Butterfield for his brigade, 3rd Brigade, 1st Division, 5th Army Corps, Army of the Potomac, in July 1862.
Daniel Adams Butterfield, 1831 to 1901, was born in Unington, New York, and graduated from Union College at Cincinnati. He was the Eastern Superintendent in the American Express Company when the Civil War broke out. A colonel in the 12th Regiment of the New York State Militia, he was promoted to Brigadier General and given command of the 5th Corps to the Army of the Potomac.
During the Peninsula Campaign, Butterfield seen himself win. During the battles of Gaines Mills, and despite an injury, he seized the colors on the 83rd Pennsylvania and rode the regiment during a critical time in the war. He was awarded the Medal of Honor due to his act of heroism.
As the story goes, General Butterfield was not pleased with the call for the extinguished light. He thought the call was too formal, and with the help of the brigade move room, Oliver Wilcox Norton in 1839 to 1920 wrote taps to honor his men at camps in Harrison, Maine, Virginia, following the 7 Days Battle. These battles were fought during the Peninsula Campaign of 1862, and the new call was sounded that night in July of 1862. The call was also recorded in the used in Union and Confederate troops. Taps was named the Bugle Call after the war.
Present arms. Order, arms. Right face. Forward, march.
Sergeant First Class Momgren enlisted in the Illinois Army National Guard in 1989 and served for 9 years with the 3,637th Maintenance Company and the Illinois Military Academy, including 4 years of service as a full-time National Guard technician. His positions included Personnel Specialist, Maintenance Production Controller, and Publications NCO. In 1998, Sergeant Momgren enlisted into the regular Army and was assigned to Fort Benning, Georgia, where he served with the 11th Infantry Regiment as a Casualty Assistant Specialist. From 2000 to 2001, he served an overseas tour in South Korea, assigned to the 532nd Military Intelligence Battalion in Seoul. Upon his return to Fort Benning, he again served with the post Adjutant General as Casualty NCO, Congregational Correspondence NCO, and Contingency Operations NCO. It was during this time, in 2003, that Sergeant Momgren completed his bachelor's degree in education at Columbus State University. In 2004, Sergeant Momgren began his career as a school teacher and returned to the Army National Guard. He served with the 122nd Regional Training Institute in Macon, Georgia, and completed his instructor credentials in 2005. He served as an instructor for basic NCO courses from 2007 to 2009 and joined the Officer Candidate School in 2010, where he served as platoon trainer and instructor until 2013. During this time, he received the 2011 Instructor of the Year Award and the 2012 Outstanding Instructor Award. He retired in 2013, the same year that he completed his Specialist in Education degree at Columbus State University. Sergeant Momgren's military education includes the primary leadership development course, the basic and advanced non-commissioned officer courses, and various instructor certification courses. His military awards include 2 awards of the Meritorious Service Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, the Army Achievement Medal, the Humanitarian Service Medal, and others. Sergeant Momgren and his wife have 2 children, a daughter and a son, and live in Hamilton, Georgia. Sergeant Momgren enjoys working, learning, traveling, and spending time with his family. Please welcome Sergeant First Class Momgren.
Thank you, Cadet Calloway. Thank you, Command Sergeant Major Bush, for the opportunity to say a few words on this special day. I continue to be inspired by the great work that you and Sergeant First Class Smith do with our high school JROTC program, year in and year out. It's not for the faint of heart, is it? I'm also grateful to our superintendent, Mrs. Albritton, and to our high school administrators, Mr. Barnhill, Mrs. Kimball, and Mrs. Parks, for their great support of the JROTC program, as well as our entire school. To all my fellow staff and faculty here at Taylor County High School, I'm so proud to be a part of Team Taylor County. I'm also proud of our students. Your hard work and your diligence in academics and athletics does not go unnoticed. Finally, parents and family members and community members, many of you, veterans yourselves, thank you. We could not have this school system without you. This year has not been for the faint of heart, has it? We have faced the adversity of a pandemic together, and we're working hard to keep everyone safe and learning and achieving. To my fellow veterans of all branches of our military service, thank you. This day is for you. Throughout history, peoples of nations have always come together to honor their veterans. They've held in special regard those willing to step forward and answer their country's call with, "Here am I, send me," if I can borrow a few words from the book of Isaiah. Honoring all of our veterans, past and present, has become a heartfelt tradition and one that should not be lost. All right, English students, y'all ready for this? The English word tradition comes from the Latin word traditio. It literally means to hand over, to give something. In our culture, it's come to mean to pass along knowledge, customs, beliefs from one generation to the next so that they are not lost. Our annual tradition of Veterans Day is indeed a worthy one, honoring men and women who should never be forgotten. It represents their greatest gift of all to us, freedom. It's a gift from our past to cherish in our present and protect for our future. For just a minute, I want to go back to this idea of tradition, of handing something over, passing it along to the next generation. I want to remind you that once something is given to you, it becomes your responsibility. It's very similar to what happens in a relay race. When the baton is put in your hand, it's yours now. How tightly you hang on to it, how far you run with it is up to you. Whether you pass it to the next runner is also up to you. Will you pass it to the next person successfully? Remember, it was given to you with confidence. Somebody believed in you to get it to your next teammate. That baton of freedom has traveled a long way, you know, and passed through countless hands. Sometimes it was dropped and had to be picked up again. And sometimes it had to be gotten from a companion who had fallen and could not get up again. But always it has been passed on with promise and carried with resolve and determination. My grandfather, George Momgren, entered the Army in 1942, and once deployed to the European theater of World War II, he did not return home until 3 years later. One of the sons that he left behind was my father, Clyde, who was 6 years old at the time. Years later, my father was to join the Air Force, serve in South Korea, and spend a total of 10 years serving his country while raising a young family with my mother. Just this last May, my nephew, Harley, completed his Army basic and advanced individual training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, 30 years to the month that I completed mine at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Do you see what I mean about passing along that baton? I think that all veterans appreciate a heartfelt thank you when we receive one. It makes us feel like our sacrifices, large or small, have not been forgotten and that our contributions have indeed made a difference. But I also think that every time you shake a veteran's hand or give them a fist or elbow bump at the moment, something else is happening too. I think that in a way, there's an unspoken acknowledgement being made, a treasured trust being transferred. I think that each of us want to say, take it forward, pay it forward. To pay it forward means to take the benefits and advantages that you've been given and to benefit others with them, instead of trying to find a way to pay back the person who gave them to you. It pays the original giver the greatest compliment because it makes their original contributions have a much greater impact. I think most veterans would agree that this is what gives us the greatest satisfaction, to see others, especially the next generation, resolve to take the gift of freedom and pay it forward to make our community, our nation, our world a better place. At one point, all veterans made the decision to serve their nation. But that word nation is not one-dimensional. It includes our states, our communities, our neighbors, our very own families. We build our nation one person at a time, one family at a time, one state at a time, so on. So today, I would like to hand you a baton, our baton of freedom. I think I place it in good hands. Know that every time you speak a word or do an act of service to one of your fellow Americans, you are helping to strengthen that fellowship of freedom. What you do to make your family, your church, your town, your school a better place counts. It matters. You matter. We all do. Freedom is in our charge. It's not for the faint of heart, is it? I'd like to close with a quote from former President of the United States, Ronald Reagan. I think that it exemplifies what we should all strive for as veterans and citizens. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day, we'll spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States, where men were free. Take the baton of freedom forward. Thank you.
Please, bow your heads. Dear God, as we leave this place today, let us not take for granted the sacrifices made by our veterans and one still serving. because due to their sacrifices, we get to enjoy the freedoms, peace, and luxuries we have here in the United States. Lord, thank you for creating these men and women that answer the call of duty when no one else will. In your Son's name I pray. Amen. Please remain standing for the retiring of the colors.
Present on. Order arms. Center face. Forward march. Gun halt. About face. Forward march.
That concludes the ceremony.